So let's have a look what's going on this month. Yeah, cute, isn't it? That little Oliver Twist voice there. So this month then we've got a few things that we want to share with you, and again with our live PMO news, it is just about dipping into things that we've seen that we think would be really great for a PMO audience. So let's get cracking then. So we saw this earlier on in the month, and I did share this in the House of PMO LinkedIn group. If you're not a part of the group, please do make sure you go and join us after the session. Just do a search for House of PMO and come and join the group. There's over 2,000 people in there, and we're sharing stuff pretty much every day. But this was lovely. I saw this popping up, and this is the team at Northwest Ambulance Service, and they got recognised at an award ceremony. You can see the group there. So the Unsung Hero Awards, which is even better. The fact that it's unsung, I think, is brilliant, because isn't that just PMO all over? But it's just nice to be able to see any PMO team being recognised or not, and whether it's formal awards or just having a little recognition, bit of pat on the back. And along those lines, really, is just to remind you that International PMO Day is coming up on the 14th of May, and that's a brilliant time to maybe have your own little recognitions and little awards within your own PMO. Not so good if there's only one or two of you, but if there's a bigger group of you, why don't you come up with your own awards or little recognition things to hand out for everybody in your teams? I think that'd be a really lovely idea, something to do on International PMO Day. But well done to Northwest Ambulance Service. I know they've been doing some great stuff over the years with their PMO, yeah, so it's good for them. Pat on the back. Super. Okay, you might have seen that the Pulse of the Profession report was out from PMI. If you've not already, you can go and have a look at that. But I delved into it this week to find out what might be the key findings from it. And this might not be that much of a surprise for people today, but it doesn't matter which PM approach or method you use. Actually, it all comes down to the consistency in that you're using whatever it is that you're using. So they did a really nice just a diagram in terms of the ways of working, spectrum from where people are at the moment in terms of that kind of predictive or waterfall, going right through to full kind of agile big A type working. But again, it's perhaps no surprise for many of us that have been working in this space for a number of years, that actually it does come down to the consistency if you're going to become more mature in what it is that you're doing. Having consistency in your approaches is absolutely the way to go. So another thing perhaps might not be again a surprise, but again this is coming out from the latest report from PMI, is to customize your PMO approach. Your PM approach is the way to go, but I think most organizations kind of know this. The other bits within that report was also about whether there is a difference on productivity and performance about where people are working right now. That report showed that actually there is no real differences with people working at home or more virtual, but again you can delve into that bit, but I didn't want to get into that because I think there was some more PMO specific type things that were quite interesting to have a look at, and they had a bit in there about there's some things that are classed as being enablers in order that help performance of projects and programs and all of that kind of stuff, and they listed out what the enablers were. And straight away, when I looked at this, I thought, well, have a look at all of those things. It's like, who does this kind of work within an organization today? If that's not the PMO, I don't know what is. So it was just really interesting to see that. And in the section about this, about enablers, they didn't directly bring in the PMO either, which I think was a bit of a missed opportunity. However, they did bring it in a little bit later on in a kind of summary of it, which I think was probably a little bit more of a missed opportunity because it was kind of put down the back end of the report. So there's some enabler stuff, which I thought were quite interesting, but the bits that they actually pulled in on the summary were actually pulled in from a different report that they've done recently on PMOs. And these were the key points about, how the PMO is helping an organization in terms of the future of project work. And again, Is there anything new in this? I think one of the last points on there I thought was really interesting. The other four not so much, but this last one about the PMO can help develop strong interpersonal skills in project managers. I mean, what an interesting line that is. I mean, do you do that? Should we be doing that? Shouldn't our project managers already have good interpersonal skills? I just thought it was a really interesting point. But the report's available for you to download and have a look at it yourself. But I said, again, there's some little pockets of bits in there that are about PMO that you might want to have a little look at. But yeah, I think in terms of some of these reports, sometimes there's nothing startling, new. Maybe it's just a good reminder that here's some of the stuff that is classed as being good practice right now in terms of project management. So you can go and have a look at that. And it's available. You don't need to be a PMI member to be able to see that. One of the other bits I wanted to talk about as well is that sometimes I like to delve into other professions and what it is that they're doing that you can probably think about pinching from other industries that could apply to the PMO. So this one was about for starters, but for people that are working in brands. Now, the reason why I picked up on this one is because we did a PMO higher education event last week, and there's a couple of comments and points in that where people were talking about the brand of the PMO in terms of what it is, what it stands for, what it's about, what people think about it, what its perceptions are. And then this dropped into my inbox, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. So if we think about PMO as a brand, so what are the big questions that brands should be asking themselves for 2024? There were 10, and I managed to pull out that there's probably maybe about 4 of them. And here they were in terms of, so this is branding in terms of businesses and product branding. But if we think about this in terms of PMO, these are the things that are probably kind of figure in our world as well, which is about what technology will define success for us. I think that's something that's very much on the agenda right now. Is there an AI reckoning on the horizon? Again, there are lots of big puff about AI. What is there a reckoning? How is it going to be really perceived and used within business? There's a lot of stuff and singing and songs and dancing around AI, but what will happen with it in reality as businesses start to think about how they kind of use it and embed it? This third one were really good as well about how is value being redefined. We talk about value all the time. I hate the term adding value because it's not defined. And I think it was just really interesting about, do we actually truly define what value means from PMO? And if we're doing it today, what is that value? And do we actually need to think about redefining that? And then this final one was about, does the future success mean putting collaboration above competition? And this was a shout out for all those organizations that have many PMOs within it. Are you working more collaborative together rather than not so much in competition? But that was another thing that came out of the higher education event last week, in that they've got lots of PMOs dotted around their business, but actually they don't do enough in terms of collaborating together. And that's not something that is really uncommon. I remember seeing that myself 20 years ago. So it's still not got better. So perhaps something to think about in terms of going forward. So quite nice to have a look into a different kind of organization, different kind of sector, just to see what they're doing and what they're thinking about, and can we pull it into anything around PMOs. But if nothing else from this little session, do you have a brand for your PMO? Because I know a lot of PMOs have, and it's been really useful for them. Just moving on, and this one's hot off the press. It literally came out 2 days ago. And this is the government response to how they will be utilizing data analytics and AI in project deliveries. So it's come out from the big boys, Infrastructure and Projects Authority, and the body Major Projects Association. They've got some guidance and insight and some reports. If you just do a search for data analytics and AI on Gov UK, it'll pop up. But go and have a look at that, because I know a lot of people, it is very much on their radar at the moment, and it certainly is here for House of PMO. So again, it's always good to see what the government's doing. And then finally, we always like to have a bit of a PMO job spotlight. And I thought this time, let's have a look at the PMO director role, because, well, again, it's one of the roles that we see and recognise within the PMO competency framework. Yes, they do exist out there, but I thought it'd be really interesting just to see well, actually, how many jobs are there at the moment for a PMO director? And it is named as such. So just looking at the popular job board, indeed.co.uk, there were 5 jobs out of all of the kind of PMO roles that are out there that were specifically about PMO directors. And they were in these sectors, just to give you a feel for where these kind of roles are appearing. A lot of people have said that, for a PMO director role doesn't really exist, but it absolutely does. And these are the kind of organizations that are seeing the PMO director role as being crucial to parts of their business. But also what is interesting, what is it that these people are doing? So I thought I'd just pull out that for you as well, just looking at across those 5 jobs in terms of what it is that they were looking for. So there's managing the portfolio. So again, for these organizations, big portfolios, certainly in some of the organizations that were looking for this director role, they're talking about a portfolio of 1 billion, so pretty big stuff. Enterprise level PMO and the leadership that is involved there, but also leadership in terms of being quite high up in that organization, being at that kind of just below the board level. So a lot of reporting into the C-suite. Some of the roles were actually about leading some of the key strategic projects that business has got as well. So a kind of insight into that there's probably some kind of project delivery experience required at this kind of level. There was some around roles and responsibilities around the performance monitoring. So again, looking at that whole portfolio across the whole organization is looking at performance in all the kind of change activity that was happening. Big pieces on people management and people development, and leading that in terms of things like recruitment and training and that kind of stuff. Other bits for strategic alignment, so a big job in terms of, yes, we've got the strategy at the organization level, and then how is that cascading down into kind of the portfolio and the projects and programs being delivered. And a big piece that seemed to come up quite a lot across these roles was resource management, which kind of tells me a little bit in terms of all the different things that you could have been, whether it be planning or risk or finance. It seemed to be resource management that was a big tick on the list in terms of what was required. So that's it from the news section this month. We'll see you next month for some more on terms of what's going on.